Hello, my name is Crystal Petry, and you are watching season 3 of the Crystal Petry podcast. On today's podcast, I am so excited. Normally, I'm like, my audience, my community needs to be excited, but today I am so excited. I have someone on this podcast who has, you walked, right, Ranger?
Yes.
Okay, someone who walked across the country, which is just like, mind blowing to me.
hmm
So, we're going to hear all about his journey, but more importantly, how his journey across the country is going to help you in your journey and me and my journey. So, welcome to the podcast, Ranger. How are you?
I'm doing great, Crystal. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat. It's a great morning over here on the coast, so excited to see where the conversation goes.
Yes. Okay, so speaking of the Coast Ranger, where in the world are you?
Like, of all the coasts in the world, which one are you at? I am over in Half Moon Bay, which is just about 20, 30 minutes south of San Francisco on the peninsula.
Okay, so West Coast,
Yep.
West Coast it is. So, Ranger, when you and I initially spoke, I was so excited, if you remember this. And I was trying not to ask you questions during that time because I like to be like authentic and, have a real surprise and reaction to my
hmm
guests. It was so hard not to do our podcast conversation then. So I have been waiting, Ranger. I have been waiting. Okay, let's just my second question. Tell me about where you started in the country and where you ended in the country with this walk.
Totally. So I started on March 10th, 2024 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Mhm.
So, but just north, a little bit of north on the side of the state. Started with my feet in the Atlantic, and then I finished on August 31st, 2024. So about 5.5 months later in Los Angeles, California.
Did you lose a lot of weight? I would assume that you did.
Kind of. So what happened was the first month or so, I did a terrible job eating. I was just so focused on moving, getting out there, and I'm burning 4 to 6 ish thousand calories a day, doing 20 to 30 miles. I just wasn't eating enough because I'm nervous, not paying attention, like so many other things going on. And I got to a host family's house that had a scale, and I stepped on it, and I'd lost about 20 to 30 ish pounds. I was like, wait a second, that sounds like a lot. So I had a nutritionist that I was working with, and she gave me like the baseline, take these vitamins every day, take this, focus on this, eat this, avoid this. And she was like, hey, that sounds like a lot. What have you been eating? And I sent her meal plan back. She was like, did you read what else I said in the email? I was like, probably not. So I went back, and it was like, this is the starting. You need to figure out, another 2 to 3 thousand calories. I don't want you to eat fast food, but at some point you just need calories. So after that, I started kind of keeping up the weight and eating a lot more. I don't know if you know this about the South, but there's a Dollar General every 5 seconds,
There is, and
and
I
a
do know that.
McDonald's, and a Waffle House, and
Yeah.
and the containers are bigger.
Yeah.
So after that, I started eating a lot more, and I put on a little bit of extra weight because the issue that I was running into was like worrying about losing muscle or losing stamina. So that was kind of what I was focused on moving forward.
How many steps were you taking a day?
Oh gosh, a day. I'm not sure. I One of my buddies is an engineer, so
Okay.
he made me set up a whole Google Excel sheet. So I have that info. Let me just pull it up. I know that the overall steps were about 5.5 million.
Really?
Yeah,
5.5 million from South Carolina to what part of California?
Los Angeles, so
Los
Southern California.
Okay.
And yeah, so he made this whole Excel sheet for me. It was very nice.
Tell your engineer friend we say thank you.
Oh yeah. So this is based off an estimate because I only used because I to track the walk app wise and mile and steps. I was using the Nike Run app, but
Mhm.
the issue was as I was getting further and further west, it was getting hotter and hotter, and the phone would overheat. So I didn't
Okay.
want to keep using it. My battery was kind of losing its charge faster. So I only tracked like 15, 20-ish days on the app, but it ended up showing that my steps were around 30 to 40,000 a day for the most part. Um, they're kind of all over the place. Yeah, about 30 to 40, some 50, up to 60.
Okay.
Average miles a day on days that I walked was 25.
25 miles a day,
Yeah,
between 30 to 50,000 steps a day.
over the
This,
course of 5.5 months, technically speaking, I did
yes,
over 55 marathons.
55
Yeah, and
minutes.
that's days where it was over 26 miles. For the purists, it's 26.2, but I didn't get that fancy with it. I was like, anything over 26, I'm calling it a marathon day.
That's absolutely a marathon.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what, Ranger? I'm over here feeling so bad about myself. You walked 30,000 steps a day, and I struggle to get in 6,000.
Well, I also want to make it clear, it's really easy to walk 30, 40 miles in a day if that's all you're doing and you have literally nothing else
Oh,
to do during the day. So
yeah.
I'll give you some grace on that, but
Thank
at
you.
least
That
get
did make me
15,
feel
20
better.
miles.
Yeah. That made me feel much better. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. It's
So,
amazing what you can do when you're
Ranger,
homeless and unemployed.
oh, yeah. What inspired you to make this decision to walk across country? What was your thought process, or like your thought map, if you will, that led you
Mm.
to, I'm going to walk from South Carolina to Los Angeles, California?
Yeah, and I love the visual that you just gave, the map, because there's a bunch of different pieces on the map, and if you look at a thing and it just has, a pinpoint that says, I don't know, Los Angeles in the middle of a white piece of paper, that doesn't really tell you anything. But with a map, there's some like terraform, there's this other city in relation to it, how everything connects. Because what I've noticed is a lot of people, when they ask that question, they kind of think there's like one singular reason
N-
for it. And
No.
there's never just one. I call it the web of whys, which is, I just love Spider-Man. So I
I
was like, I
I
need to
love
figure out
that.
something.
Yes.
Because like all these things intersect, like they kind of seem kind of random on their own, but at the center, it's just like, oh, this makes the most sense. So for me, kind of giving a little bit of the background, I went to UC Davis in California, which is a university near Sacramento, for animal science. UC Davis is one of the most well-known institutions for veterinary medicine. Growing up, ever since I was a little boy, I wanted to be an animal doctor. I thought that that was going to be my thing, my shtick, whatever. I graduated top of my class in high school, went to UC Davis for animal science, very quickly learned it's a lot more science than animal. There is a lot of chemistry and biology and even classes I didn't even make it to that I was like, this is insane. It's not just playing with puppies and kittens and sheep and goats all the time. Like you're going to be a doctor, so it makes sense. So I ended up switching my major about a year and a half into school. So all of my plans for my life were kind of just falling to the wayside. I
Hmm.
was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I don't know what I'm supposed to be. How do I figure it out while I'm going into debt, being stressed all the time, et cetera, et cetera? So a friend of mine at the time told me to switch to economics. She's like, you want to own your own business someday. You want to do all these things. This is going to be your best general, get a good degree and get out. It's like, all right, I guess I'll do that. So struggled through school for a few years. I hit my peak weight of 300 pounds my junior year. And it was just a mix of drinking, eating like garbage,
Hmm.
not really moving ever. One day I looked down and I couldn't see my feet. And I was like, oh, something needs to change. So started getting into running, and kind of that's what started my fitness journey. I was an athlete in high school and everything, but post graduation, when I didn't have a coach yelling at me,
Right.
like you don't really do a whole lot. So that was one of those things that kind of got me into the idea of, weight loss and fitness and taking care of my body. So that's one of the strands. And then when I graduated December of 2019, which, if you know anything about timelines, was about 3 months before the pandemic hit.
Yes,
So
it was.
I was applying for jobs, and I don't know if you know this, but jobs take forever to get back to you,
Yes,
like
they do.
months and months, and it's just insane. So jobs that I was applying for a few months before graduation were getting back to me and saying, no, thank you, you don't have the experience. I'm like, oh my God, okay. So I moved in with my mom right after graduation, was applying for jobs, It takes about 2 to 3 months for them to get back to you sometimes. So they started getting back to me end of February. And there was a few things I was like, man, I'm really excited about this. But all of them were in like event director or working with kids or 4-H or FFA, which is very in-person oriented.
Mm-hmm.
So then the pandemic hit and all of those jobs kind of fell off.
Oh,
So it was just like this constant, like I call it getting punched in the throat of
right.
like it kind of knocks the wind out of you. And you're like, well, it's far enough from my heart that I can keep going, but it still sucks. Um, and I was just getting all these different odd jobs and figuring out all these different things. And I was just kind of like realizing that I just felt like I had no direction, no purpose. Like, what am I even supposed to be doing right now? I had 7, technically 8 different jobs from 2020 to the middle of 2021. Just jumping back and
Wow.
forth, doing
Yes.
side jobs, doing, part-time here, full-time here. So that was one of those other things. It's like, I need to figure out what I'm doing with my life. I told you briefly this a little bit, but end of 2020, my grandfather passed away from Alzheimer's. And something that I'd always been really big on was the idea of a legacy. There was a quote, I can't remember who said it off the top of my head, but it's like every person dies twice. The first when they stop breathing, and the second when someone says their name for the last time.
Oh,
And I
wow.
was very much focused on that space between 1 and 2. Like, I figured, I got a good 80 years in me, maybe. But that second, that 1 to 2 could be 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, 2, 3, 4. Like, we still talk about people from thousands of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you expend that as much as possible? And that kind of got flipped on its head when my grandfather passed, because I was talking to my grandma and she was able to kind of finally talk about what was going on with him losing his memory, who he was, who she was, all the memories, like random things that would pop up that would kind of trigger memories were fewer and fewer and fewer as time went on. And it kind of made me realize, holy crap, like I've been spending all this time and energy thinking about that 1 to 2, but I'm
Right.
not really focused on this 0 to 1. Like, if I get to the point I'm in my deathbed, and I can maybe remember my life, like I
Mm-hmm.
want to remember that I did the things that I wanted to do.
Yes.
And that made me think of, that was in 2020, around 2018, 2019, I was sitting in my dorm room bed in my fraternity house, scrolling through Instagram and Facebook. And I
Like a lot of
came,
people.
like a lot of people, and this is to, you'll see how all this kind of ties in together with the question you asked originally before my rant. But I saw a video from a
No, it's the
gentleman.
map. It's the map.
Yeah, it's the map. It's the map. Everyone will be like, oh, that's how it comes together. But there was a gentleman named Mike Posner. I don't know if you've heard of him. He was popular in like the early 2010s. Singer,
No, I haven't.
songwriter.
Okay.
I took a pill in Ibiza. Cooler than me. Okay, maybe he's not as cool as I think he is, but he was
But I
very
will look him
popular.
up when we finish.
Yeah, and I'll send you my favorite songs of his.
Okay.
But he's an artist who it was kind of like he went on this trajectory of, he released a super popular song. He thought that he was going to be all great and like this next big singer. And then every song after got less and less popular until he kind of fell off.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going through it personally and emotionally, but he walked across the country and he was posting about it. And I was like, man, that's amazing. That's exciting. That's so cool. I wish I could do something like that, but I'm not a multimillionaire singer-songwriter. I don't write songs for Maroon 5 and Justin Bieber. I
Wow.
don't. So I'm like, I don't have the resources this guy has. That's not for people like me. Maybe one day when I have those things, I can do the stuff.
I feel like, not to interrupt you here,
Oh,
I feel
please.
like we all have those same thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we want to do something or we see someone else doing it, we automatically have this. I can't do it because I'm not this. I can't do it because of this. We all experience that.
Yeah, I call that wearing a tutu. Like, I'm too fat, I'm too young, I'm too poor, I'm too this, I'm too that. It's like you just kind of like let this thing weigh you down, as opposed to using that as like I'm here, I'm excited, I'm ready to do it. It's like, I'm embarrassed, I'm going to hide this. So
Hmm.
it's just about like wearing it proud. Like, I am too young. I don't have enough resources. What can I do instead? So that was like in line with what I was saying earlier. Like, I had no confidence. Everything was kind of falling apart. I was like, well, I can't even get through UC Davis for animal science. How am I going to do this other thing? And there were just other things like that were kind of like popping up consistently. So like those were other webs that were kind of forming. And then what eventually led to me thinking that I could actually do it was I was again in bed in 2020, beginning of 2020 or end of 2021, beginning of 2022, and I was scrolling on everybody's new favorite app, TikTok. So a lot of scrolling in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I came across a video from this kid, or like 2021 at the time, named Andrew Kivet, and he had just finished walking across the country. I was like, oh my God, everybody's doing it but me. And
Yeah.
then in his video, it was like, my final day, he's recording himself. And then he turns and Mike Posner was behind him. And I'm like, who the
No.
hell is this guy? Like, did he get Mike to walk again? Did he do another one? Did
Yeah.
he like show up at the end of Mike's? I was like, all these questions. And I started looking into him. And no, he actually started in Georgia, I believe. It took him 3 months to make it across. So he did a speed run. But yeah, he walked across, he did everything. And I was like, oh my, like, who's this guy? Like, is he like the son of a millionaire? Like making up those
Right.
assumptions right away. And I was looking through his content and I'm like, he's just a normal dude. Like, he's from the middle of Kansas. Like, there's nothing. And I always feel bad when I say these, but like, there's nothing special or
Mm-hmm.
like unique. Like, there's nothing crazy about him. I was
Yeah.
like, that's weird. And then I found another guy. He was on a podcast with another guy named Mark Dudek who walked across. And I was like, who the hell is this guy? So I started listening to his podcast and his story. And I'm like, he's also just a normal dude. Like, he was an Eagle Scout. But other than that, like, there's nothing special secret sauce. He's just a normal dude from Ohio. And I'm like, I'm just a normal dude from California.
Yes.
What's going on there? I was like, I'm curious. So I started looking at Mike Posner's interviews from before he started walking, from right after. And I noticed that he was talking about him making those same excuses that I was making beforehand, that he doesn't have the time, he doesn't have the energy, it's not for people like him. I was like, oh my God, he's just a normal dude from Michigan.
Yes.
But what separates them from me is that they made the decision to actually take that first step. That was all it was. So after
Mm-hmm.
I realized that, it was like this, like you kind of like sit, like in the movies, they make that realization when they're laying down, they sit up. Like, that's kind
Yeah.
of what it felt like. Like, oh my God, do I actually want to do this, or do I just think it's interesting or cool? So then that went on a whole journey. At the time, I was going through a life coach certification. So another thing that the instructor said was, if you are going to take a stand for your clients, you need to take a stand for yourself. And I'm
Wow.
like, oh my God, all these roads and lines are
Yes.
finally intersecting. And I'm like, okay, if I'm going to sit here and be on calls with my clients and tell them that they can do their big crazy thing and that they can do whatever they want to do, but I'm not doing it, that sucks.
Yeah.
How am I supposed to do that?
And it's unauthentic. I don't even know if that's a word, but you're not being authentic.
Exactly. And I think that the final nail was, I was watching an interview with Mike Posner again, and he said that he had heard this from someone else, that not all crazy ideas are great, but all great ideas are crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God. So I got off a coaching call with my coach at the time, kind of tear filled, like, do I actually want to do this? And at the end of the call, I was like, yes, this is what I want to do. And then I texted my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, and
Congratulations.
thank you. And I said, like, hey, babe, just got off my call. I want to walk across the country. And that was in July of 2022. And she responded a couple minutes later and said, okay, what's the first step? I was like, I think the first step is buying a ring. I didn't tell her that, but I was like, I need to figure out why. Like, that was the next big thing. Like, I know I want to do it. I know that there's something deeper. I need something bigger than just I want to do it. So that's kind of how all the major lines intersected. My grandfather passing, making that realization, seeing Mike, Andrew, and Mark's story, just all these things came together to come into this one big, crazy decision that, I mean, there's a lot of choices you have to make and
Yes.
things you have to end or start. So that was how that web came together.
I love, and it was so visual. Like I could see like
Hmm.
all of these things like happening to you and happening for you. So, okay, like your girlfriend at the time, fiance now said,
Hmm.
what was okay? So you figured out your why.
Yeah.
So this is a two-part question for you, Ranger. What was your why? And
Hmm.
once you figured out what your why was, what was the next tangible step that you had to do?
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I wanted to figure out was the why, because I knew, like, reading what other people had done, climbing Mount Everest, doing the PCT, the AT, Central Coast, all these different things. It's like you can't. You're gonna go through really terrible, crappy, horrible, horrendous days. Your gear's gonna break. You're almost gonna get hit by a car. You're gonna go through all these things. You need something to remind yourself of why you're doing it and, like, to not quit. So another thing I noticed was all the biggest companies in the world have a mission statement.
Mm-hmm.
Nonprofits, organizations. I was running
Yes.
an animal rescue at the time, and I had just rewritten our nonprofit mission statement to be more clear, to be easily communicated, and all these different things. I was like, oh my God, like, I need a mission statement. Because I knew I wanted my walk, like, looking at other people's walks. Some people were like, oh, I want to hit as many national or state parks. I'm walking for the environment. I'm walking for suicide prevention and awareness, or veterans, or this or that. And I'm like, I don't know what I like. I want something deeper. I want to connect with people, but I don't know what that looks like. Um, there's a This is like very post walk, but there's a gentleman that I talked to for my podcast where he does nonprofit fundraising,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, I don't know how to do heart surgery. I don't know how to make the equipment to save lives or transport hearts, but I can raise the money to do so. I can give them the tools they need so that they're not limited. They're only limited by their creativity and their solutions, not what's in the bank account. And I was like, I think that that's more my thing. Is I want to give voices to people. I want to talk to people. I want to learn from them. I want to show that there's good people in the world. So my mission statement ended up being to highlight, learn from, and work with people in the US that are making a difference in their community. And I know I call it vaguely specific, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, highlight, learn from, work with. What does that mean? What does that look like? Like, I didn't want to say I'm going to have 50 podcast interviews on my walk, because I'm like, I don't know if I can record anything. I don't know what that's going to look like.
Yes.
Um, and people making a difference in their communities. Like, I wanted to show that making a difference can be small, it can be large, but the idea is that you're making a net positive on the world.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I wanted to focus on for it. So that kind of turned into, I kind of alluded to it, but doing a podcast with the people that I met along the way. I ended up recording 33 episodes
While
from,
you were doing your walk?
yeah, it was rough.
Ah,
um, Thankfully, my fiance works for a hotel chain. So one of my biggest, like, blessings was that we get cheaper hotel rooms, not
yes.
free, but very inexpensive compared to what they typically are. So that was like my biggest, like, um, what is it? My, like, in a video game when you have like special power ups.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
that was like my power up, was that I had affordable hotel rooms. So I was able to record a lot when I was in hotel rooms, when host families, in their spare bedrooms, whatever. But yeah, I was able to record with people like Trey Hall, who owns Cold Blooded Caffeine Company in South Carolina. They're
Mm-hmm.
a coffee company. They're reptile breeders originally, but they are a coffee company that donates money to the Rainforest Alliance, or US ARC, which is the Association for Reptile Keepers in the US. But they were like, hey, we buy coffee and drink it all the time,
Mm-hmm.
but coffee's terrible for the environment. What
Oh,
if we
wow.
started a coffee company, and there's deforestation and, like, issues in the trade? What if we started a coffee company that, like, gives back and brings awareness to the issues? Like, we're not going to sit here and say don't drink coffee, but what if we can do it in a way that offsets those externalities?
Yes.
So there's people like that. I interviewed cat rescue, dog rescue, parrot and exotic bird rescue, a pediatric oncology nurse, so childhood cancer, um, Certified Pies, the first Black-owned pizza restaurant in Arkansas. So it was just like all these different people all across the country. Like, why did I bring on people that own a pizza restaurant? Why did I bring on these you know what I mean? But it's like, these people are making a difference. Like, they're showing their stories, they're sharing their lessons, they're giving back to the community in different ways. So I just wanted to show again, no matter who you are, what you do, you can make a difference.
Did you have your podcast already going before you decided to make the walk, or did you create it as you're walking?
I started my podcast 2 weeks before I left my job. So, like right before the walk.
Okay.
It was made specifically for it. I've always wanted to start a podcast. I've always, I love a spotlight. So, but I just never knew what to make it about. And I figured that the walk was like the perfect excuse. So the first few episodes are, the coffee company, they sponsored a few bags of coffee for me. So I had them on. I had my yoga therapist, my nutritionist, and a few other people, like the person that I hired to be my personal trainer. So just like all these people that were the initial backbone of the walk, those are the people that I brought on originally. Um,
Okay.
so it was made specifically for the walk, started just before it, but it was for the walk.
Now, you stated it took you about 5.5 months to complete from walking from South Carolina to Los Angeles, California. Is that how long you expected for it to take?
My original estimate was I was going to start in March 10th and end, I think, October 2nd. I gave myself a ton of time originally because I wasn't sure what it would look like or how far I could actually walk in a day.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that my brain works is that as soon as I hit a 20-mile day, which was like the first day, I was like, okay, I can do at least 20 miles a day. And then I hit 25. I'm like, okay, I can do at least 25, at least 30, at least 35, right? So my initial estimate, I think, was just shy of 20 miles a day, but it upped pretty quickly from there. So I went a lot faster. And just the way that host families worked out, it was like if I don't get to them 100 miles west by Monday,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be gone and they won't be able to help me. So I got to push fast. So, like Alabama, I think I was only in the state for 4 or 5 days. So I cruised through Alabama. Unfortunately, I wanted to see more of it, but it was just the host families lined up perfectly like that.
What was the necessity for having a nutritionist and a personal trainer?
So before I started, I think kind of going back to your earlier question, after I figured out my why, I was like, I need to get in better shape. Like I wasn't 300 pounds anymore. At that point, I had run 2 half marathons,
Mhm.
done some 5Ks and 10Ks, but I was like, I need to build up my endurance and my physical. That was like, and I think that was the thing that was the easiest to see because there's things like route planning, getting the equipment, etc.
Mhm.
But it was more difficult to control. And I'll kind of get into the difference between the farmers and cows in a second
Okay.
on that part. Little things I came up with when I was fighting off heat exhaustion. But that was the next best thing was I need to run more, I need to walk more, I need to start lifting weights. So that's what I did for the next about a year or so.
Mhm.
And then they got to a point where I was like, I am terrified of picking up certain weight because I don't want to hurt myself. Like, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. If I pull something or screw something up, that's just going to like screw the entire walk. So
Yes.
then I was, have you ever heard of Alex Hormozy?
No.
No. So he's a business creator. He's a big gym. He was, did a lot of gym stuff in his earlier career,
Okay.
but he did some kind of live stream and there was somebody else in there that said that they were a personal trainer. And it was like the day after that I told my fiance that I wanted to hire one. So I was like, okay, like he follows the same content I do. I followed his page. I'll reach out to him. And him and I just super clicked. His name is Spencer Sharp. He's in Canada. I'm in California. So he was like, it was like the perfect thing to where I'm like, I don't want to hire someone local because I don't want to be bogged down to a schedule. Whatever. I love that he was virtual because I would just send
Mhm.
him videos of me doing things like lifting weights. He's like, fix this, do that. And it just super upped all of like my muscle building and the weight I was able to lift. So it just helped a ton. So I had him the last, I think 5 to 6 months before the walk started. Again, just to build up the muscle because I knew I was going to be pushing a cart that weighed anywhere from 100 to 150 pounds, uphill, downhill. Like I never wanted to feel like I couldn't
Right.
push it up a hill. Like it's not, can I do this? It's just how long is it going to take me? That was what I wanted to focus on. My backpack was anywhere from 15 to 40 pounds just based off of what I had going on that day.
Mhm.
So I was like, it's going to be a lot. I want to train in the gym to make it better. The nutritionist, she was in one of my networking groups and she sponsored her nutrition planning, which I super appreciated. Mari from Rooted Fitness. And my thing with that was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to eat. I feel like it's going to be very easy to not eat certain things that I should be eating.
Mm-hmm.
Like right now, like I was living with my mom at the time. I'm like, mom makes good food. Like I feel like I'm not deficient in anything. But when I'm on the road, it's going to be very easy just to grab garbage. And I need somebody that says, buy this, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I can ask ChatGPT, I can Google what I'm supposed to eat, but I'm the type of person there where it's like, if someone tells me what to do, it just feels a lot easier to do so.
Right.
So had her on the team, and then another gal that went through my coach certification, Stephanie. She was my yoga instructor. And I was like, I need to stretch. Like, can you make like a stretching plan that's like a little bit deeper than just, butterflies and cat cow? And
Mm-hmm.
she was like, of course. So she gave me like the midday, the morning, the afternoon, like everything that I would need. And she also does like yoga therapy. So every time that there was something wrong with my body, like, my calf is extra sore, like my feet hurt, my knees hurt, my shoulders are all screwed up. She would give me a call and say, hey, do this, do that. So it was just really nice to have someone there that I can ask body related questions to.
You had an amazing team around
Yeah.
you.
Oh, yeah. They were fantastic. And not to even mention, I reached out to Andrew and Mark because I was like, hey, I want to do this thing. I'm already planning on it. I already got things in lined up.
Did they respond?
Oh, yeah. I was like, this is so cool. Andrew was on the podcast at one point because he does a videography company too. So I was like, how do you like promote your stuff? Um, but we had a group chat called Crossers because we
Mm-hmm.
crossed the US.
I love it.
And it was great having them. Um, and there's another gentleman I'll talk about in a second because I could ask them questions that I couldn't ask anybody else. Not because
Right.
they're like my best friends from high school, like I could tell them anything, but they're not going to be able to tell me what to do when you have blisters
Yes.
all around your toes to the point that you have more blister than toe, or how to fix this thing, or like why is the chafing so bad in this area, how do you fix it, right? Because they'd be like, oh, I did this, oh, I did that. So it was just really nice like having these different people to be like, oh, the resident experts essentially.
What was the most physically challenging part of this? Even though the blister sound and the chafing sounds horrible, what was the most physically challenging part of walking across the country?
Gosh, the most physically challenging part, there's a few things that come to mind, and
Hmm.
one of the things is just like the wear and tear on the body. So one of the big things was the chafing. Um, Things rub against each other all day, every
Yeah.
day. So that is just painful, and it gets to a point if you don't take care of it or you don't have the right material. I use the thing called Body Glide. You can get it at like REI or outdoorsy stores, and it's
Okay.
basically just like deodorant, but not deodorant. Like it's like a lubricant almost, but you just put that on everywhere that hurts. Because the issue with things like that is it just gets to the point it's so painful that you can't even walk, or it's just abhorrently painful. Same thing with your feet. Like if you don't take rest days, like I took a good amount of rest days,
Hmm.
but if you don't take them enough or as often, your feet will start hurting. Like your body just aches. Everything just, it feels like you're falling apart in a way. Um, and the other thing is your knees. So, like I was saying, especially in South Carolina, it's just rolling hills throughout a majority of the state, at least the route I took. So my knees were, I think it was about 2 weeks in. I made a post on my Facebook. I was like, it feels like there's two little devil karate men, one on the left knee, one on the right knee. And every time my foot makes contact, it feels like they kicked my kneecap. And and then I was trying to make it all badass and inspirational. I'm like, but I can outwork them.
Ah!
And then it was like one of those it was like I feel like David Goggins, like these
Yeah.
like get out there and carry the boats. And then there's another gentleman, Kenny, who he did a walk a couple years ago, but he did it when he was in his 40s. So he was like, I walked 1,000 miles before I took my first step because he prepped way more than me, Mark, or Andrew.
Hmm.
And he called me at like 10 minutes after making that post. He was like, what's up with your knees? I'm like, dude, they hurt so bad. He's like, huh, how often are you replacing your shoes when you walk every day? I was like, replacing them when I walk? What do you mean? And he's like, how many pairs of shoes do you have? I'm like, one. He's like, "R- I'm going to send you an Amazon link. I was like, oh, okay. Because I guess what you're supposed to do, well, I know this now, is replace your shoes over time, over every day.
Okay.
If not several times a day, at least every day a different pair, because each shoe has different pressure points. So if you just keep using the same pressure points, it's going to cause issues in your feet, your heel, your knees, your hips, etc. So I was like, oh, that makes a lot of
That does
sense.
make sense.
So it was just like things like that were the most challenging. And as time went on, it was very cold in the mornings and cold throughout. Weather issues. I got tornado warnings in Oklahoma and Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. It was just starting to warm up and get hotter. There was less resources throughout those states. And then California, I hit Joshua Tree, and the hottest day was 120 degrees. So it was just like the basic body stuff, and then the weather, I would say, were the hardest looking back. But I know in the moment it was a lot of stress on figuring out where I was going to sleep, who my hosts were going to be, if they were going to be cool people or
Yeah.
bad people. But like there's like those three main things, like the wear and tear, weather, and then just stress of sleeping.
How did you, because at this point, I know a lot of it is physical, clearly, but the majority of that is mental, at least for me. That's how I would see it. It's mental. How did you talk your way through the tornado warnings, your feet hurting, your knees hurting, the chafing, the weather, it's hot, it's cold, you're exhausted. Why didn't you just be like, okay, I've made it through two states, that's enough, I can do it again, or I've checked this box. Like, so mentally, talk me through how you were able to talk yourself through that.
Yeah. So thankfully, like I said, I had the mission statement. I had all these things. Like
Yes.
I did a lot of work on the mental side of it, because I'd heard some of the horror stories of people that didn't do that, and then the first, their wheel breaks, their whatever happens, and then they quit half a state in. And then somebody said something to me once, like, "Oh, like even if you stop halfway through, like you can still say you walked across whatever state." It's like, no, like I will always know that I could have done this thing, but I quit and I gave up. So I think, like I said earlier, like I felt like I'd quit a lot before, like with animal science, with this, with that. I was like,
Right.
I do not want this to be another mark that, again, when I'm on my deathbed one day, that I look back and say I didn't give it my all. So that was a big thing. Um, and it was like there's a lot of thinking about it beforehand, that it was like you can think about planting tomatoes and growing them all you want. You can read all the books, but until you're actually on your knees in your garden trying to plant them and grow the damn things, you don't really know. And
Hmm.
I think one of my very first moments of holy crap, I need to do this thing. It was the second day of the walk. The first day, my fiance did the first half quarter mile with me. She was, stopping by every 4 or 5 miles. Hey, are you okay? Watching my location. Hey, you haven't moved in 10 minutes. Are you
Yeah.
alive? Do you have enough water? Like, so she was there, like
I
checking
see
on
why
me
she became your
constantly.
fiance.
Oh yeah, I proposed to her a couple months before the walk. I was like, I am coming back to you. I
Yeah.
promise. Here's a rock. Um, and I was like, it's gonna sound way better for you to say my fiance is walking across than my boyfriend. So,
Yeah.
um, but anyway, so it was the second day. The first day she picked me up. We went back to the hotel room. I fixed everything. Like we got more materials, got rid of some stuff. The next day she dropped me off, and I set up my cart and I stood up and I was like, okay, I think this is it. She was going to take off on a plane in a few hours. And I looked back and she was like holding back tears. And
Oh.
I was like, ah. And then I started crying and she started crying. And
Oh.
it was just like she's like, are you sure you want to do this? And I'm like, Yes." She's like, okay, then do it." I'm like, okay. And then she walked away, or she got in the car and I started walking. And in my little journal, I wrote, through blurry eyes, I did the first like 6 miles. But I hit shuffle on my music, and the song "I'm Gonna Be" by Post Malone came on,
Hmm.
and it was like, I'm gonna be what I want. I'm gonna do what I want. Like I'm not gonna let any chances go by. And it was just like this moment of like, oh shit, like if I'm gonna do this, like, I don't get a second chance. Like, I quit my job for this. I had a cushy government job, like no reason to ever leave that position kind of a
Yes.
deal. I had to, figure out what to do with all my animals for a few months. Like, I thankfully have them all still, but I didn't have to like get rid of any or rehome them. But I'm like, I had to do this. Like, my family's stressed out. My fiance's terrified. I've told social media I'm going to do this. Like, I can't just say halfway through, oh, I'm going to stop and then come back and do it again. Like, I
Yeah.
don't get another chance. So that was like a really good, like, I cannot screw this up. And then the physical reminder about, again, 2 weeks, a lot happened in South Carolina. I had just left Saluda, South Carolina, and it was like 6 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And this truck pulled over, and this guy jumped out and he started waving me down. He's like, hey, hey, hey. I was, oh my God, like, hello, how's it going? Good morning. And he's like, I saw you on the news. Like, I'm so excited to see
Wow.
you. Because I got on the news throughout the state,
Uh-huh.
but he had a bandana on, like a scarf. It was 6 in the morning in March of South Carolina, so it was cold. And he walked over and he pulled it down, and his face was a little bit disfigured. I was like, "Oh, like, hi, like, whatever." We started talking for a second,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Oh, man, like, I love your message. Like, there are good people. Like, I love that. Um, I'm a first responder, a firefighter, like EMT, like they kind of have to double up on everything in the
They
middle of
do.
nowhere." So he was like, like a few years ago, I was in a big accident in a burning building. I got trapped in there. My buddies had to get me out. I was in the hospital for months and months. And, it was a really dark time. But I was listening, I think it was Jocko Willink or something. His big thing was, if you can still say the word good, you're alive, you're breathing, you can get to the other side. And I was like, damn, yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love that. And he was like, my he like pulled down his cuff. He's like, my buddy made these for me, and he ripped off these two wristbands, and he handed them to me. And he was like, you're gonna meet some crazy moments on this. You're gonna think about, like, why the hell am I doing this? It's easier just to quit. Like, I want you to look down and remember these two things. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. I looked down, and one of them says never quit 4 or 5 times around the entire band.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one says still breathing, still fighting. So I had those on the entire rest of the walk. And, it was nice because I had the cart pushing like this. So
So
I could
you could
always
see
see
them.
those. Exactly. So I had those. And then I had a copy of the book, Keep Going by Andrew Kivet, the other guy that walked across.
Mm-hmm.
I always tried to have that in view. So it's just like I had to give myself all of these visual reminders, like, dude, no matter what you come across, no matter what happens, like, you're going to make it out to the other side. So it was just like all these things happen at the very beginning to, like,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do this thing.
Let's talk about your grandfather for a little bit. You explained to us when you were talking about your map to this process
Hmm.
that his passing was one of the things that really pushed you or drove you to
Hmm.
take on this. First question, what was his name and what was the relationship you had with him, Ranger?
Yeah. So his name is Larry, but I always called him Papa, Nana and Papa. And our relationship was really good when I was little. They lived in California. They lived a few hours away. So my mom and my dad, even when they split up, my dad would take me. He was my Grandpa Larry is, or Papa Larry is my mom's dad.
Mhm.
And even when my mom and dad broke up, my dad would still take us over there. Like, they got along super well. They hung out with us. Like, I was homeschooled growing up, so I didn't have very many friends. So when I would
Mhm.
go and visit Kyle and Rose and Zachary and Papa, like, it was always like a good little time. But I think I was around 10 or so, maybe a little bit younger, when they moved from California to Oklahoma. So after that, we never really saw them. Like, it was always hard, plane tickets and hotels or
Right.
visiting. Like, it was always difficult to make it out there. And I only made it out there once or twice or so, I think, um, between when I was 10 and about 20, 22 ish when he passed away.
Mhm.
So I hadn't really seen them a whole lot, which was obviously unfortunate and upsetting. But even then, I mean, prior to the Alzheimer's diagnosis, like, I still talked to his sons, Kyle and Zachary. I would call them occasionally. So it was like always good to kind of like have that presence, even if I wasn't close enough and able to afford the tickets and everything else.
Did Papa Larry do anything, and I'm gonna use the word crazy, just crazy and outlandish like this that you know of in his life?
Nothing like walking across the country, but something that I always admired about him, what he was really into Star Wars.
Hmm.
So it was to the point, it wasn't just like, oh, I have these figurines on the wall. Like he would pause the movies and make super detailed notes about where the characters were standing, what the lighting looked like, what he thought the materials of the set were made of, um, reading about the sets and everything else. And he would make like to scale dioramas of different scenes of the movie. So, like the cantina scene, I think in episode what, A New Hope, when Luke is upside down in the ice chamber with the
I
Yeti
never seen
thing.
it.
Okay, well, they're in a big bar, so like there's like a ton of
Okay.
characters, or he's upside down in this cave and like he had to like make the icicles a certain way. So like he was like super detailed and super into that kind of stuff. So that was one of the things that always stuck out to me, was like that passion, that detail, like that excitement, and I guess just joy for something.
Oh, that's so good. Well, Papa Larry, wherever you are, we miss you. He sounded like he was a wonderful influence in your life, even from a distance.
Oh, for
Even,
sure.
even from a distance. One of the things that you and I spoke about, Ranger, before, we were doing this podcast, you had a quote and it just really stuck out to me.
Mm,
So much so that, we're about to talk about it in the podcast. You said people will always either have the regret of not doing or the regret of discipline.
mhm.
Explain that to me.
Yeah, I think it's just about another way to kind of frame that and put that is like choose your hard, choose your pain. Like you're either going to have the pain of one day being, again, I use the deathbed a lot as an example, but you're going to have the pain of regret one day of, man, I wish I had done something about this. I wish I had done this thing. I wish I had tried, or the pain of actually doing the thing. Like it's hard to run a marathon, but if you can't do it, you can't do it. If you can, you will get through it. Like it's either about the pain that you can do nothing about or the pain
Mhm.
that you can do something about, like taking ownership and having that like personal push to do it.
Right. And I wonder if people, especially my community that's listening, you do the thing, like you say, Ranger, but you don't finish the thing, or for
Mm.
whatever reason, you got to quit the thing. Is there still regret there, or is it at least I tried? I gave it my all. I didn't get the job. The business that I tried didn't work out, but at least I tried.
Yeah, I think that kind of stems down to opportunity in every experience. Like, do I regret working at a fast food stand for 3 years? Like, no,
Mhm.
because there's these things that I was able to actually learn from it. Like, if you're able to learn something from it, whether it's you succeeded, you failed, you did whatever, like you're gaining something out of it to put towards a future endeavor. um God, today is just the day of quoting people that I can't remember the actual name for. But there's another one where it's like, it's better to know why you lost than not know why you won. Like if you're able to piece apart the lessons from it, it's better than just it's something happening and getting nothing out of it.
What lessons did you learn on your walk? You 5.5, was it 5.5 million, was it steps?
Yeah.
5.5 million steps, about 5.5 months from South Carolina to Los Angeles, California. It's a lot of fives in there,
Yeah.
Range. I just realized that. It's a lot of fives in there. Okay. What lessons did you learn about yourself personally?
Oh gosh, the lessons I learned about myself personally, I think a lot of it is also just more so like the reminders, right? Like I know that I can do hard things. Like I've done the half marathons. I ran a reptile rescue for a couple years. Like I've done things that are difficult. I think it's just that there's always more in the tank. because I think even what we are saying earlier, like I walked across the country, but looking back, it's like, man, I could have gotten a few more interviews in. I could have hit a few
Yeah.
more like beautiful sites. I could have taken more time. Like there's always going to be that at the end, like what is it? Hindsight is 2020.
Right.
Another quote that I don't know who said, but
No one knows who said that.
oh, thank God. Um, but I think that that's the biggest lesson is that it's like you're always going to be able to look back and find things that you wish you had done different, but it's also about like remembering, yes, the decisions you made, but like what choices did you have in that moment?
Hmm.
Was I even able to make that in the moment? Could I see that? Did I have that piece of information? And then how do you take that and then apply it to things in the future? Like, yes, at the time, like a Rubik's Cube, right? Like there's the different sides, the different colors. In the moment, I could only see blue and green. That's all I
Right.
could see, even though I had purple, yellow, blue, whatever, right? Like just because I can see all sides later, a year and a half after the fact, doesn't mean that I had that at the time. But in the future, how can I go, okay, I can see these two.
Yes.
How can I kind of twist it around and see another side and then another? So it's like, how do you give yourself more opportunity and possibility?
On that walk, were you able to absolve yourself of some of the regrets you had in life? I know you stated that you regretted quitting UC
Mhm.
Berkeley with the animal science program. You felt some kind of way for, I don't know if I would phrase it, not spending more time with Papa Larry, but the distance there,
Mhm.
kind of caused that lack of communication and time that the two of you were able to spend together. Were you able to absolve yourself of some of those regrets as you were walking?
Yeah, I think the like spending time with Papa, I think that that was a big one for sure because I couldn't make it to a lot of things. I didn't have like again, it was like the distance, the this, the that. Well, I could have done
Right.
this, I should have done that. And same thing with for going to school for vet science. It's like, well, again, looking back, I had all these other choices, but I didn't have the information. So I would really say that that is the biggest key and takeaway for myself
Hmm.
is like how do you how do you understand that that is the decision you made and the choices you had without making excuses for yourself, like as opposed to saying this was a good thing or this was a bad thing, like this is the thing that happened and
Hmm.
everything else that we are feeling about it is just a story. Like what is the situation that actually happened? I failed out of animal science.
Hmm.
Great. All the other story is I suck, I'm a failure, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm stupid, I'm what, you know what I mean? So it's like let's separate that out. And it was I didn't study enough. I didn't have my expectations aligned with reality. Ouch. Okay. Still my fault. But I have the skills and responsibility to do something about it. Like I didn't see Papa enough. Ouch. I could have done other things. How can I do that better in the future with other loved ones? So I think that that's the big thing is what's the lesson? What can you actually do about it?
And I think that's in any case, whether you are walking across the country or not. I think that's the case. Being able to just break it down to the bare bones of this is what it is. How can I do better moving forward so that you don't repeat those mistakes, so that you don't have as many regrets in your life as when you get to your deathbed, something that you've been talking about throughout this conversation. What about loneliness? I feel like walking across the country for 5.5 months pretty much by yourself. You had a wonderful team, but pretty much by yourself must have gotten lonely. What was that like, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, well, the team was all virtual all across.
Yes.
So it's like I think that's the big thing too. Is like I on the walk, I never actually felt lonely, which I thought was so interesting because yes, I was by myself. I there was a woman named Joan in Los Angeles who walked with me for 8 miles,
Hmm.
but she was the only one that actually did legitimate miles with me. But I mean, constantly every day, even in the middle of nowhere, there would be people that stopped to check on me, make sure I was okay, make sure there wasn't a baby in the cart, because I
Yeah.
was pushing a jogger stroller. So they were
Okay.
like, "Hey, there's this crazy homeless man maybe pushing a baby down the highway.
Yeah.
Maybe you should do something about that." So like the
Yes.
highway patrol or sheriffs or constable, like they would stop me every once in a while. Thankfully, not like a weekly occurrence, but definitely like bi-weekly.
Hmm.
But the daily occurrence was people offering food or water or monetary donations for the charities I was raising money for. Um, so it was just like there was like constant interaction on the walk. And even on the days where there was less people or a couple where there were no people, it was like I am still able to pull out my phone and call my best friend Brett, my best friend Bryant, my fiance,
Yes.
my dad, my mom, my uncle, like my fraternity brothers. Like it was insane to me. I think that somebody else made a comment before, like, "Oh, did you feel like a pilgrim, like Lewis and Clark?" I'm like, absolutely not. Like I had medicine, I had drinkable water, I had McDonald's every few miles, I had Dollar General, I could call 911 at any given moment. Like we now have so many resources that I think we also take advantage of or
We do.
we take for granted every single day. Um, the one of the very first days, it was with the bird sanctuary. About a week or so in, it was the first time I was in a car since Julie dropped me off. So, I was used to doing 20, 30, 20 to 25, 30-ish miles that whole time. And I remember there was a bridge that I had crossed about 12 miles before they picked me up. So it took me about like 4-ish, 5 hours to get from that bridge to where they picked me up.
Hmm.
And we got back to it within like 5 minutes. And it was just like that moment of like, oh my God. I struggled here. Like I kind of had a little bit of a mental breakdown over here. I almost got hit by a car right here. I dropped my water bottle over. You know what I mean? Like over time. And then it's like just 5, 10 minutes. Like, no, it just
Like
blinks
it's
by.
nothing.
Yeah.
Well, I guess it was nothing in the car.
In the car. Yeah. And they even missed the exit. And then I had to see even more of the like we went down the hill that I struggled with for an hour, just up, turned around, back up like nothing. So it's just like moments like that were like, holy geez. That is so interesting. Like I
Yeah.
am never going to take advantage of the vehicle ever again. And even to this day, like when I'm driving, I kind of like look at the side of the road and I'm like, this would suck to walk on. But I would do this and like get past it by
Hmm.
doing that, or I'd go on the other side. So it's like you're always kind of thinking about that still.
What does success look like to you at this point in time in your life?
Yeah, I think success, because I was thinking about that question because I you sent it to me and other people have asked that. I think success really is like not giving up.
Hmm.
Like another thing that Alex Hormozy talks about is the difference between like finite and infinite games. Like a finite game is things like baseball or basketball. Like there's a time limit, like there's innings, there's quarters. You have a
Right.
set amount of time. Your goal is to get more points than the other guy. There's only so much you can do in that finite game. Like walking across the country. I have this amount of time, 6, 7, 8 months to walk 2,642 miles. When I start, I'm in the Atlantic Ocean.
Hmm.
When I finish, I'm in the Pacific Ocean. That's
Yes.
it, right? But there's other games that are infinite. There's no real start, there's no real end. The only way that you win is by continuing to play. So, like being married, you're never going to go on a date that's so good you never have to go on a date again.
Yeah.
Fitness, you're never going to eat the healthiest meal in the world to where you can eat McDonald's every day after. Running a business, like I'm sure you know this, like
Yes.
you're never going to make one deal that you never have to do anything ever again. But it's just about like taking in the feedback, kind of what we were saying earlier. Like even on the days where you lose, how can you turn that into a win? How can you learn something from it?
Mm.
So I think that that's the big thing of success is even these finite games throughout our life, like it's just kind of building on those different peaks. Um, Again, another quote, I know this one generally is like a Haitian proverb
Okay.
is behind every mountain is another mountain. Like every time you reach the peak of something else, there's going to be another one to climb. But you need to take those lessons from that ascent to use on the next one to get higher and higher and higher.
And maybe it gets easier and easier if
Hmm.
you learn the lessons and apply the lessons. It gets easier and easier.
Yeah, but you still have to do in the work.
You still
You have to
gotta,
still do the
yes,
stuff.
you still gotta go through the stuff. If you could go back to March, the night before you left, what would you tell yourself differently?
Take more pictures and take better notes. Um, Something that I started doing about halfway through.
Mm-hmm.
So take better pictures, take better notes, and post more. Something that I kind of got caught up with, and I made a couple blog posts about this, is perfectionism of content. The first few days, like the first week or two, I think I was doing super detailed day updates. I woke
Okay.
up at 6. I started getting on the road at 7. I did this. This happened. I talked to this person. It was great. And then as things got more difficult, like I found it harder because I had my laptop with me the whole time. So I was like, this needs to be perfect, but I'm exhausted. I can't spend an hour writing this out because I need to get some sleep.
Yes.
And then I missed a day, and then I missed 2 days, and then I posted something, and then I missed 4 days. So I was like missing a bunch of days of content and not sharing what I was doing enough. And I just kind of wish that I had taken that perfectionism out and said, like, there's other guys that are walking across right now, like, oh, just got stopped by blah, blah, blah. Here's my selfie with them. Thank you so much for stopping to say hi.
Mhm.
Or, oh, I just passed this interesting thing. How cool, how funny. Or putting this on my story. Like, I didn't get back into doing that, I think, until I was about Mississippi, Arkansas area. So I took a few states off. So it wasn't terrible. But I
Mhm.
just wish that even then I wasn't so focused on everything being perfect. And I think around Oklahoma is when I started making more of an effort to take pictures, like a selfie with
Yes.
everybody that stopped me.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because I at the end I made like a little bit of like a what is it, like a slideshow,
Montage.
like a montage, yeah. And I was like, man, this is not even half the people that stopped. Like there's so many people that even if I don't have their name or where I met them, like
Mhm.
that stopped to make sure I was okay or that I had food or water or gave me a few bucks. Like that was what the walk was about, was the other people in the world that I came in contact with. I just wish I did a better job getting everybody, or at
Mhm.
least more people.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Hmm.
Okay. So, are there any other like dreams or like big things that you're thinking of that you want to do now?
Yeah, I think it's there's things like, I want to climb Mount Whitney, the highest point in the continental US. I don't want to do Everest. I'm okay not doing big things like that. I don't want to, I don't know, potentially explode in the middle of nowhere.
Hmm.
But like I want to climb Mount Whitney. I want to do a marathon. I think it'd be really cool to do like an ultra marathon one day, like the
Okay.
50, 100-mile races. Um, Not to race, but just to say I did it.
Right.
Um, but other than that, it's just like a lot of like body things I want to do. I'm working on my coaching practice, my podcast. Like those are like the infinite games. And then I've had other people ask me if there's any other big walks planned, and I easy answer to that one is just my fiance down the aisle. That is the
Oh, I
only
love
other
it.
walk that we're working on and planning. But weddings are a whole other
They
planning
are.
nightmare. I'm like,
They
it was
are.
easier to find strangers to host me in their house than it is to find like a location to have the damn thing. What is going on?
Good luck with that. Hey,
Yeah,
it's not the wedding, it's the marriage. It's
ex- e-
not the wedding, it's the marriage. That's what people
exactly.
say.
That's another
Okay,
thing that we tell ourselves too. So it's like,
it's not
this
the
is one
wedding,
day
the
of 80
marriage.
years.
Yes, exactly, exactly. What is your socials? I'm sure my
Yeah.
community is like, we want to, even this, I mean, it was a couple years ago that you did and you finished your walk.
Mhm.
What socials can people go on to like follow you and watch you? Look at the pictures
Yeah.
that you did take, the video. What is that?
Yep. So across most platforms, it's at within range underscore coaching. So Facebook is, if you just look up within range coaching, you'll be able to find it. Instagram, TikTok. And then my website is just withinrangecoaching.com. A lot of my content, even if it's not a photo of me fighting off heat exhaustion in Alabama, like a lot of it is still tied to the walk. I have an ebook that I created, like the 9 main lessons that I learned from the walk. So if you just search me up, you'll find it there.
And I'll make sure and get all of those links and put it in the description box, so people could just click and go. But I wanted to make sure and get that information out. So we are getting ready to wrap up here, Ranger. What would you say is your intention, your goal in this space? And did you accomplish it by walking across the country?
Yes. Short answer, yes. My long answer, I say my intention generally is to be a student, but also be a spotlight. Like I am constantly trying to learn things from other people. What are you doing? What are you doing differently? How is that working for you? What's not working for you? Being very curious and present in that moment with people. And then when it comes to being a spotlight, like I also want to find ways that I can help others. Like, is it putting you on the podcast, on the platform? Is it connecting you with someone? Like, I think that those are really the main things, is be constantly learning and be an advocate for those in your community.
My final question for you, Ranger, who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast? But you have to help me get them on.
Of course. Can I break the rule a little bit?
Go ahead.
Okay, I have 2 people that I think would be great.
Okay.
So one of them is named Ricky Corelli, and he is a coach for young men. So I know that a lot of young men, the reason I resonate with him so much is because I was one of those young men that didn't have my sense of purpose. Like one thing happened that I let define my entire life at that point. I got into UC Davis, I got into animal science, I failed out, now all of these stories. And I wish that I had someone like him to kind of say, what's deeper than that? Why do you want to be a vet? Why is this important to you? And like, it would have been able to piece out that I want to be a voice for the voiceless. I want to uphold people. I want to help critters. Like having something like that, I think would have been super helpful. And I think that would be a great message to have for other young men in the world. The other one is Kathleen Maxwell. And she is in the same Toastmasters group as myself and oh my gosh, edit that part out. Linda, sorry. So Kathleen Maxwell, who is in the same Toastmasters group as myself and Linda, and she's a hypnotherapist and coach. And I just really love everything that she's doing. I think that it's just one of those interesting things where it's like, she does so many things that I don't do. That it's interesting to me. So she really just tickles that brain. Like, I don't do hypnotherapy. I don't do these other methods in my coaching. Like, that's so cool. So I think that just more people like that need to be out and about and sharing their message with the world.
Well, I look forward to learning from both of them. That's going to be good. I haven't had a coach on that coaches young men. So I have a lot of questions for him.
Oh yeah. No, he's great. He was on my show. I'm like, this is so cool. Like, it's just different and interesting from what I do. So
yes. Well, like I said at the beginning of this conversation, Ranger, and when we spoke initially, I am and was so excited to do this podcast with you, and I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for our opportunity to talk, because I've never spoken to someone that has done this like amazing, out of this box, out of this world thinking of walking across the country. So I appreciate you walking across the country, and I appreciate you sharing the stories with me and my community. So thank you so much.
of course, your patience paid off. You got to hang out with me for an hour.
I know, you were so worth the wait. You were so worth the wait.
I'm going to put that on my website. Worth the wait.
Put it on the website. I'm telling you, you are worth the wait. Absolutely. Also, your marriage, worth the wait. Everything you're going through and I just want to say congratulations on that. I know you haven't gotten there yet, but congratulations on when you make that next amazing walk.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes. And to my community, thank you so much for tuning in, listening, and learning. You can get Ranger's podcast on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And always know, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.